Good morning, Tech Fam. It's Friday, August 22nd, and you're listening to Fly Tech Weekly, the show that makes your morning smarter in 10 minutes or less. I'm Nick.
And I'm Michelle.
And here are the top 5 tech stories from this week.
For our first topic, Sony just made the PlayStation 5 more expensive in the US.
For our second topic, Apple's raising the price of Apple TV Plus.
For our third topic, Google says its Gemini AI is eco-friendly, but experts aren't convinced.
For our fourth topic, Apple Watch may finally get the Touch ID, but you'll need to wait.
And for our fifth topic, Apple rushed out an emergency iPhone patch for a hack hiding in the images. Let's fly.
For our first topic, we got some bad news for all the gamers out there. Sony is bumping the PS5 prices in the US by $50 across the board.
That means $549 for the standard PS5, $499 for the digital edition, and $749 for the PS5 Pro. Please explain, Nick, because this is just crazy.
All right, Michelle. Basically, Sony blames tariffs and a tough economy. Remember, the US slapped new import taxes on electronics. And to be fair, Sony's not the only company that had to do this.
Microsoft already raised Xbox prices, Nintendo raised Switch prices, and even accessories. Everyone's passing costs on to consumers.
Hardware's getting more expensive while games themselves are already $70. It looks like we're going to start replaying some of those old games at this rate. So, Michelle, what's the takeaway for our gaming fanatics?
Console wars aren't about graphics anymore. They're about the price tags. For our second topic, Apple TV Plus just went from $9.99 to $12.99 a month.
But we do have some good news. I guess new customers pay more immediately. Existing ones get a 30-day grace period. Annual plans and Apple One bundles stay the same.
But this is the third price hike since launch. It started at $4.99 in 2019. But why the increase?
Apple spending billions and original content, but they report that the service still loses about $1 billion per year.
And Apple's not alone. Netflix, Disney Plus, and Peacock, they've all raised prices as streaming shifts from growth at all costs to let's make some more money, please. So, Nick, what's the takeaway for our binge watch listeners?
Streaming starting to look and feel like the new cable bundle.
For our third topic, so Google just dropped a study saying its Gemini AI is super efficient.
According to Google, one Gemini prompt uses 5 drops of water, as much energy as 9 seconds of TV.
But researchers say those numbers leave out a lot, like the massive indirect water use tied to electricity production.
And Google reported market-based emissions look cleaner instead of location-based emissions, which are usually higher and reveal the real impact of local power grid.
So basically what's really happening here is that data centers already use huge amounts of power and water.
AI could supercharge that demand even if each query is more effective. Total usage goes up as more people use AI.
So Nick, what's the takeaway for our AI users?
I'm going to think about it twice before I make that request.
For our fourth topic, a hidden code shows Apple is testing Touch ID for the Apple Watch.
But here's the deal. Don't expect it this fall. The code points to 2026 or later, probably tied to a major redesign.
What we're expecting is a fingerprint reader built into the side button, and Apple's even filed patents for that.
The same code also hints at next-gen processors, Apple's first major watch CPU upgrade in years.
If it launches, Touch ID would make Apple Pay and health data more secure. Right now, the watch relies mostly on passcodes and Face ID from your iPhone. So Nick, what's the takeaway for Apple Watch lovers?
Touch ID isn't ready yet, but Apple wants the watch to be more secure on its own.
And for our fifth and final topic, Apple pushed out an emergency update this week to fix a dangerous bug.
The flaw lets hackers hide malware inside images. Just receiving the wrong picture by text or email could expose your iPhone, iPad, or Mac.
Apple says it was already used in highly targeted attacks, which usually would mean spyware groups or nation-state hackers.
This is the second zero-day Apple patch this year tied to image or media files.
So we highly suggest if your phone hasn't been updated to iOS 18.6.2 yet, do it today. And if you don't want to do it, have someone do it for you. So Nick, what's the takeaway for our beautiful listeners?
The safest wallpaper for your iPhone is a software update. All right, Michelle, what are the takeaways for our beautiful listeners?
For our first topic, PS5 prices are up thanks to tariffs and inflation, and gaming is officially getting more expensive.
For our second topic, Apple TV Plus is pricier too, part of a broader streaming industry squeeze.
For our third topic, Google's Gemini claims it's eco-friendly, but experts say the real environmental costs are hidden.
For our fourth topic, Apple Watch may finally get the Touch ID in 2026, making it more secure for payments and health.
And for our fifth and final topic, Apple patched the hack hidden in images, so you should definitely update your devices now.
Do it now. Now that's a wrap for another Fly Tech Weekly.
If you laughed, learned, or feel smarter, hit us with a 5-star review.
That's the only type of review we will accept. Until next time, peace.